much big breaking news to cover, including President Trump's next steps in rooting out the waste inside our government. But first, last night, President Trump was in New Orleans, yours truly as well, where he became the first sitting president to attend a Super Bowl game. And the reception was a wave of cheers and applause. Wow. Watch.
Through the perilous fight, or the rain.
And during the game, President Trump didn't even stop working, announcing that he was directing the Treasury Secretary to stop the production of the penny, highlighting that it actually cost 2 cents to make the 1 cent coin, if you can even believe this. And here's Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on how DOGE is creating the most comprehensive government audit of our lifetime. Take a look. All right, we don't have that. But all the wins don't stop there, because President Trump was traveling to New Orleans yesterday and they passed right over the Gulf of America. Watch.
Air Force One is currently in international waters for the first time in history, flying over the recently renamed Gulf of America. Please enjoy the flight, and we are now about to head westbound to Super Bowl 59.
Wow, yeah. He did that well. That's a good... Make America great again, right? That's what we care about. Okay, here we go. So this is a famous pen now.
And more than ever, President Trump is keeping his promises and doing what he said he was going to do. And guess what? The American people agree. Take a look.
Things that's so important for politicians is for folks to believe what they're saying and that they're keeping their campaign promises. So I think this gives you a pretty gosh darn good idea of what may be going on. Trump's doing what he promised to do. You go back to April of 2017, it was just 46% of all Americans who said that Trump was doing what he promised to do. Compare that now to February of 2025. You know, there was a good show that was on during the 1990s called A Different World. That is what's going on right now. We're living in a different world. 70% of Americans say Trump is doing what he promised to do. Again, compare that to April of 2017 when it's just 46%. When Americans are 24 points more likely to say that you're doing what you promised to do, it's no wonder that your net approval rating is much more likely to be on the positive side of the ledger than on the negative side. And so far, what we're seeing, again, is Americans, 21 days so far versus just 11 days during his entire first term, that Trump has a positive net approval rating. Quite a different world.
And meanwhile, in just about 1 hour, the Senate is expected to vote to close debate on Tulsi Gabbard's nomination as the next Director of National Intelligence. Setting up a confirmation vote for tomorrow, we will bring you the very latest updates as they occur. And guess who's coming up? Roger Stone in just moments. But first, free speech is under attack and Rumble refuses to back down. We've always believed in empowering independent voices, and now Rumble is taking that issue to the next level. We are excited to offer Rumble Premium, a completely ad-free experience with exclusive benefits for viewers and creators. And it's more than a subscription. It's actually taking a stand for free speech. Your voice matters. Join Rumble Premium. So here's the deal. For a limited time, you can get $10 off an annual plan using promo code KG10. That's promo code KG10. Go to visitrumble.com/premium/KG10 and claim your discount today. All right. And coming up right now, joining us, iconic political strategist, host for the Stone Zone, Roger Stone. Roger, thank you for being on the program.
Kimberly, always great to be with you.
Fantastic. So we were super excited to have you on today. So much going on, so much winning that you predicted, an election that you predicted, a robust and most auspicious presidency that you predicted. So this is very exciting. It's another week of big confirmation votes for the Senate. All indications are that Tulsi and RFK have the votes. I know you've been a big proponent of Tulsi Gabbard. You know, from day one, you called it. And then also Kash Patel is slated to be confirmed next week. But are there any surprises we should be on the lookout for? And then just speak to everything, that you know and what you think, your analysis, et cetera, about Tulsi Gabbard and her qualifications.
Well, first of all, Kimberly, thanks for having me. Secondarily, I honestly believe that even though Donald Trump was a great president in his first term, and that was with half the people he appointed working secretly against him, but he still achieved great things: the most robust economy in our history, the lowest levels of unemployment among all Americans, rebuilding our military strength, and so on. I actually think he's going to be a much greater president in this term than if he had been rightfully given the office in 2020, which I think he won. As the 4 years in the wilderness here, the 4 years fighting the tsunami of lawfare against him, he was able to see the deep state for what they are. He was able to fully understand how Washington works and how the two parties work. And you already see it. He's hit the ground running in a way that is it's breathtaking. This is going to be more dramatic than Franklin Roosevelt's first 100 days, more dramatic than John Kennedy's first 100 days.
Interesting. I like that prediction as well. I love to have interesting American political history and the juxtaposition between the past and the present, what President Trump's been able to do. I mean, even though he went to the Super Bowl, he still used it as a working day, like phenomenal what he did. Very cool with the Gulf of America and making that, Gulf of America Day in the United States. And we see him there. That's Theo. That's Ivanka's youngest son. Very cute. He's great. Hey, they predicted the winner there. He's got the green on for the Eagles. But so you have been, I want to give proper credit where credit is due, Roger. You have been vital, crucial, many say, in laying out why Tulsi deserved an important position in this administration. What do you believe she can achieve in the office of the Director of National Intelligence?
Well, Kimberly, I've been in American politics for 45 years, a little longer now. Tulsi Gabbard is one of the most impressive individuals I've ever seen. Both in terms of her communication skills, her knowledge, and her firm commitment to principle. I honestly think she's going to be the first woman president.
I hope so.
She is, as you know, a combat veteran in Iraq and Kuwait. She's a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, but she's extraordinarily smart. And I thought it was very important that she helped bring, I think, a lot of independents, a lot of millennials, a lot of people who weren't in the Trump coalition in 2016 back into the coalition in 2024. She's also has a complete understanding of the deep state and how they operate. This is why they're so apoplectic about her appointment. I mean, they said, oh, she went and met with Assad. So did Senator Robert Torricelli of New Jersey, a Democrat. So did Nancy Pelosi. Her concern was very clear. The last time these radicals controlled Syria, 100,000 Christians were brutally slaughtered. So, I think that's a legitimate reason to talk to the folks there. Or this question that because she wants to curtail our support for the war in Ukraine, that somehow means that she's pro-Russian. How do you question the patriotism of someone who's put their life on their line for their country in combat? So I think she was additive politically. I think she helped bring a lot, and she campaigned very hard. It's interesting, any day from the time she endorsed Donald Trump for president to election day, the only days that she was not campaigning, she was on military duty as a member of the U.S. Army Reserve. She worked very hard for this presidency, to win this presidency, and I think the president's made an excellent choice here in sending her to be the Director of National Information.
I certainly think so. And I got to tell you something, I can't stop watching those videos. It never gets old for me. If I her shooting and like doing all this stuff, I mean, she is unbelievable. And such a nice person. You know, every time I see her, she's super warm and gracious and like amazing, supporting other women, being a role model to men and women, quite frankly. She's the best of the best. That's what America First looks like. So I'm pretty excited about it. Let's talk about this too. So President Trump recently revoked, security clearances for Biden, Blinken, Letitia James, Alvin Bragg, and others. So Letitia James in particular has some problems that you really have highlighted. What do we need to know?
Well, she has a number of problems. First and foremost, she has the problem that there is now solid proof that she overestimated the value of assets in order to secure mortgages to buy commercial properties. Wait a minute, isn't that what she accused Donald Trump of doing?
Exactly.
Secondarily, if you examine her contributions to her campaign through Act Blue to become Attorney General, you're going to find that a bunch of her donors, people who gave many, many, many times, either don't exist at all, or when you contact them, they say they didn't give those contributions. So there's evidence of campaign finance fraud. Right now, Kimberly, we are looking very closely at her campaign contributions when she served 6 terms in the New York City Council. That's because, as you know, Eric Adams is charged with taking $100,000 of Turkish money, illegal offshore money, giving it to straw donors in the United States, and then submitting it to New York City's 8-to-1 campaign finance matching program, turning $100,000 into about $800,000, only because not every penny was eligible. I believe there's a solid pattern that Tish James did the exact same thing. I have a team of researchers working on it right now. She also covered up at least one case of where her chief of staff was accused of sexual assault. She fought it in court. I believe it was privately settled. There are 2 other examples of this that I know of that I'm researching. There's also a woman who claims that she herself was assaulted by Tish James. This is public information. You can find it if you go looking for it. So she's got some real problems, but I think the question of her personal wealth, because she went from being worth a couple $100,000 to being worth 15 million almost overnight.
It's insane.
And I think she's guilty of the very thing that she falsely accused Donald Trump of doing.
Haven't we seen that happen time and time again? You know, what they're accusing you of, they actually have done themselves. It's unbelievable. These are morally and ethically corrupt individuals, and there needs to be accountability. Facts. It doesn't matter that President Trump won. This needs to be addressed regardless. It's not like forget about it, you know? So I know you see that too. So keep digging. Meanwhile, CBS News found that currently 53% of the public approves of the job President Donald Trump is doing, and 59% approve of his deportation of illegal aliens. So it's going over very well. How much should we read into approval numbers, you know, at this point, Roger, in a presidency?
It's very, very early. However, let's be candid. CBS, as a polling institution, has never rated the president very strongly. I've always looked at their polls in the context of looking at several other polls in the same time frame and thought that there may have been methodological problems there. So this is the highest approval rating Donald Trump has ever gotten from a CBS poll ever since the beginning of his getting into politics. And what's really interesting, Kimberly, is he is scoring best among younger voters. That's the future.
A good demographic shift.
Yeah, very dynamic, very dynamic.
I love it. I love it. And let's talk about it because, you know, quite frankly, this administration is moving, as we highlighted in the beginning of our talk, at a rapid pace, right? We've heard the term flooding the zone. What's another little play on words? Stone zone, flooding the zone. What's the best strategy to keep this momentum going, in your opinion?
Well, look, I think the American people have already decided about this. You point out this 59% number of people approving of his closing the border and expelling illegals. Look, when you're in a bathtub and the faucet's still running and it's spilling over, taking pails of water and throwing them out is not going to solve the problem. First, you have to close off the faucet.
Sure.
So that's what Tom Homan has done. Now, it's going to take some time. But they are systematically rooting out the most dangerous criminals, some of them terrorists, and removing them from the country. I love it when these Democrat politicians like the mayor of Denver and others, J.B. Pritzker, that guy's so fat he has his own zip code. Say that he's going to resist. He's going to resist if the federal law about deportation. He better not mess around. Tom Homan is a very tough customer.
Very serious guy.
Arrest Pritzker if he has to.
No, you don't want to mess around with him. He means business. And I love that. You know, as a former prosecutor, I can't stand this whole mess. I cannot even believe it's so upsetting to me about the number of people that came in that we don't even know where they are, what's going on, you know, what crimes they've committed, what are their intentions, just with this porous border that Biden and Harris created. But what's your confidence right now? Let's talk about a legislative branch. You know, your confidence in Congress. There is a majority, but it is not significant. It's slim. We also have an important special election in upstate New York that Democrats are trying to delay. So what are the key benchmarks for Congress right now?
Well, as you point out, we have very, very tight control. We don't have much room for error here, although there are, I think it's 218 Republicans and 215 Democrats. 2 congressional seats are vacant because Matt Gaetz and Mike Waltz, who became National Security Advisor, abandoned their seats or resigned their seats in those special elections, which will be won by Republicans, don't come up until April. So right now, Elise Stefanik, who has been appointed UN ambassador, while she's had her hearing, which went very well, she's not gone for her confirmation vote, I think because they are concerned about how narrow our margin is to anything in the House. Now, suddenly, last Friday, the Democrats come in New York, what's called a two-party bill from the Cousins and Heastie, the Senate leader and the Assembly Majority Leader, that completely changes how we do special elections in New York. So that used to be that within 90 days of a member of Congress resigning, or when a member of Congress resigned, the governor would set a special election within 90 days. That has always been the tradition in the law. But now they're saying that if that resignation of Elise Stefanik happens before the qualifying period for this year's primary for local offices, well, then the special election will be in June. Or if she resigns after qualifying, the election will be this November. That goes keep the seat vacant for could be the better part of a year. It would also deny President Trump his UN ambassador. She has to stay in Congress to hold the seat to make sure we have a majority. The other thing I must tell you I don't like is that under the existing law, Republican voters don't get to make this decision as to who should be the nominee to replace Elise Stefanik. This decision is in the hands of 12 Republican county chairmen. So it's going to be very interesting to make sure that we nominate the strongest candidate. The Democrats have nominated a farmer who seems kind of like a moderate. And this seat was held by a Democrat as recently as 2016. So while it is a Republican-leaning district, special elections, particularly among New York Republicans, particularly one that I think potentially could be in the summer, June or July. We're going to have to watch this very, very closely.
Well, also it becomes tricky because you can't take anything for granted, like you said, Republican leaning, but special elections, a lot of times people don't show up and it can be low voter turnout. And that to me is, problematic potentially in and of itself, unless you're the superior candidate getting the vote out.
That is a great danger. You're going to have very, very light turnout in a special election. And traditionally, for whatever reasons, New York Democrats have done a better job of that than New York Republicans. The other good news, however, is that you have this situation in Texas 28, Lyndon Johnson's old congressional district, where the congressman there, I always mispronounce his name, I guess it's Coulaire. He's Hispanic, Henry Coulaire. He and his wife have been indicted on 14 counts of bribery and embezzlement, I believe it is, and fraud. He's going the way of Menendez. I suspect that he will resign. Now, we had an excellent candidate by the name of Jay Furman in that race, Commander Jay Furman, a veteran. He got no help from the National Party. No one thought he could win. He only lost by 4 points. President Trump carried the district. So we could pick up a seat in Texas very early this year. I think that the congressman will resign as part of a plea deal, opening that to a special election.
Well, and of course, some federal judges will do everything to stand in the way of Trump's agenda, right? Which is what we're seeing. Even if some of the rulings are arbitrary and capricious, we saw it in the first term. We're seeing it now. You know, what tools, Roger, does the executive branch have to kind of combat this form of lawfare?
Well, actually, I think it's the legislative branch that has the greater authority. And nowhere does it say that the judicial branch is supremacy over the legislative branch. Some of these judges, I think, need to be held accountable. There is a process to question judges. There's a process to remove judges. Traditionally, judges are only removed for reasons of corruption. But this ruling by a federal judge that the Treasury Secretary himself should not have access to the records of the Treasury Department, this is insanity. That's an insane ruling. It'll get overturned, but it just shows you how completely hysterical and apoplectic the left is, because Donald Trump has the audacity to do exactly what he said he was going to do through the entire campaign.
Well, how should we also think about, Doge? A lot of talk about this and the access, obviously, that Elon Musk has to the different agencies to try to cut out the waste, the excessive spending, which is, we knew there was a lot, but my God. What do you think about all of this? And Democrats in the media, are more upset about the existence of Doge than the actual fraud and waste itself.
Yeah, it's people don't remember this, but we had something very similar under Reagan. It was called the Grace Commission, and they did a deep dive on American government. They came back with a book this thick of all the waste and corruption that could be caught. And then you know what happened, Kimberly? Nothing at all. That's what happened, because the Congress didn't have the courage to do anything. I love what Elon Musk is doing, and he's using his technical skills, the technical skills of his people, to look at mass amounts of data, and he's uncovering amazing fraud. USAID was signed into law by President John F. Kennedy to fund developing nations in the fight against communism. That was the original purpose. It has become a slush fund for the deep state. They use it for anything they want, paying off journalists, toppling governments. I think you're going to find their involvement in the Russian collusion hoax. You're going to find their involvement in the 2 Trump impeachments. I think you're going to find their involvement in January 6th. You see, the Central Intelligence Agency needs a presidential finding to take certain acts, but USAID, they don't need such a finding. They just do whatever they want, and the spending is beyond belief. I mean, some movie star was paid $4 million, I believe it was, to go have his picture taken with Zelensky for publicity reasons. This does not seem to me to be a good expenditure of the American people's tax money.
No, not at all. It's outrageous. I mean, the whole organization it's terrible. It's not even in any way, shape, or form being utilized for what its original intended purpose was, and has just, honestly, it's like you said, it's like a slush fund, and they can circumvent any actual authority and approval to be able to do it and pay for whatever they need to get done. Let's talk about Nixon. It's another one of your guys that you know very well historically. So he used to say that the worst thing a politician can be is dull, right? And we know Donald Trump is anything but dull. How does that affect his ability to deliver on his promises?
Well, it's kind of interesting. President Nixon was probably the first one, even before me, who saw Donald Trump's potential to be president. They met at Yankee Stadium at an opening game in the owner, George Steinbrenner's box. And President Nixon called me the next day. He knew that I was doing some work for Donald Trump. And he said, well, I've seen your man. So what did you think? He said, I'm just telling you, this guy could go all the way.
Ow.
And then he wrote a letter, which has been published by the New York Times.
Yeah. I saw
Donald
it at the
Trump.
library.
Yeah, in which he says, Mrs. Nixon and I saw you on the Mike Douglas show. And if you ever decide to get into politics, there's no question you will go all the way. So there's a great piece in the Free Beacon today about how similar in many ways Nixon and Trump were in terms of their willingness to challenge the power establishment in the early days of their presidency. Nixon was brought down not because of Watergate. Watergate, we now know, based on recently declassified documents, was a takedown of Richard Nixon by the deep state. The Central Intelligence Agency knew about the plan to break into the Watergate, and they infiltrated the Watergate burglar team with 4 CIA agents. So I think that they killed John Kennedy. They took Nixon out in a silent coup. They tried to kill our president twice. Only through the grace of God did he survive. And he knows it. There's no question that he knows it. You know, Kimberly, pastors always used to complain to me that Donald Trump didn't talk enough about his faith. Well, he thought faith was a private matter. He didn't, he didn't like to talk about it, not politically. But now you notice in his speech at the convention, his inaugural address,
Yes.
he talked a lot about his faith in God and the fact that God has indeed spared him for this moment. There's a certain serenity about him now, a certain sureness. Not that he wasn't always confident, he was always super confident, but there's something different about him now. He's having the time of his life, you can see that. And he's extremely well prepared for this. Unlike 2017, when he came from the world of business to politics, it was all new to him.
Sure.
So he didn't know, for example, that the outgoing Republican national chairman does not get to name their successor, that the president, the leader of the party, gets to do that. He didn't know that because nobody told him that.
Right.
It's a perfect example. He didn't know, for example, that the Congress had passed legislation in the late 90s that required all of the John F. Kennedy assassination documents to be released in 2017, unless the president made a decision to hold some of them or all of them back. And he actually released about 80% of the archive in 2017. Then, as he's now said, Mike Pompeo, the CIA director, convinced him to hold back 20% of the documents. Now, if Mike Pompeo, who is the director of the Central Intelligence Agency at the time, doesn't want these documents released, what could possibly be in those documents? What could it possibly be about other than the role of the CIA in John Kennedy's murder?
Think about that for a moment, right? Very interesting. Let's talk about this too in terms of presidential leadership styles, of work ethic, whatnot. Biden was nowhere. In fact, he wasn't at the Super Bowl, but I did see Jill Biden. And Trump is everywhere. Okay. He was golfing with Tiger Woods yesterday. Then he's at the Super Bowl. He's signing, Gulf of America Day. Like, he's nonstop. You know how tireless the man is. It's unbelievable. But the media can't even keep up with their coverage. Should the Trump administration double down, kind of on that strategy as much as they can and just keep going? Because the media is just like flailing.
I think I'm not even sure it's a strategy. It's just him. He's driving it. He's driving it because he's peripatetic. He's in constant motion. He's a force of nature. As you know, unlike any other political figure I've ever worked for, he's not handled. He's not managed. He's not scripted. He's genuine. He's authentic. He's Donald Trump.
And he decides, yeah.
That doesn't mean he doesn't ask for advice from a lot of people. He does. He asks from a broad array of advice from people. But at the end of the day, there's only one decision maker. He's the one who decides where Donald Trump's going to go and what he's going to do and what he's going to say and who he's going to appoint and so on. Very much his own man. It has not been that way with some of our recent presidents. It's not so much a strategy as it's just the reality. He knows the Democrats will try to take back the House in 2 years. And if that happens, we'll have the same baseless, phony investigations like the Russian collusion hoax, for example. So he is in a race against time. He's going to get as much done as he possibly can in the first 2 years. And then, if we have the boom economy that I believe we're going to have, and we begin to solve the affordable housing problem in America, well, I think we may actually gain seats in the midterm elections, which, of course, would be antithetical to all
Sure.
previous historical record.
Unbelievable. So let's talk about sort of what you see going forward. I mean, I know you're quite happy with so many of the things that have occurred. Obviously, we want to see Tulsi and RFK, confirmed, Kash Patel. What else would you like to see President Trump do? Because a lot has happened very quickly here. Like, what's sort of on your, highlight reel for Trump administration accomplishments?
Two things I really, really like is he's thrown out the idea, and at this point it's just an idea, but it's not an impossible idea. I'd like to see him repeal the income tax. I'd like to see us move to a flatter, fairer federal tax system. And I think it could be done.
I agree. Do you think that's on the horizon? Because I find this to be very interesting. I think we need major overhaul with the IRS. It's out of control. And, more money in the pockets of hardworking Americans.
You don't have to tell me I owe them $2 million, of which $1.5 million is interest and penalties that they'll give me no on. And this pertains to my 2006 taxes. They put out a press release, the IRS, saying that I had failed to honestly declare my assets or my income when I did nothing of the kind.
It's so
and
bad.
They learned that in an audit. So, yeah, we do need reform at the IRS. I'll be paying them for the rest of my life, if you want to know the truth. But the other thing I really like is this announcement that they're going to audit the Federal Reserve. Think about that. I mean, Ron Paul must be so happy today. It must be unbelievable. He's actually going to go in and audit the Federal Reserve, something that Ron Paul's been calling for decades. So he's going after all of these untouchable entities in Washington who no one has ever questioned before, like USAID being a perfect example. And he's finding epic corruption and waste. This is going to be the most transformative presidency in American history.
I'm super excited about it. I want him to get right on that IRS ASAP. Let me tell you something. Talk about approval rating. Who goes to bed at night being like, oh, you complete me. I love you, IRS. I don't think anybody. What is, we'll talk about this with the economy, and so far so good, but what does it look like for you specifically on like housing? And we have Bill Pulte tapped to lead the Federal Housing Agency. What can be done? What would you like to be seen accomplished there?
Well, I have to say, Bill Pulte is among the president's very best appointees. He comes from a long-standing family business that built thousands and thousands of homes across America. He's also a very early Trump supporter in 2016, and of course, again in 2020, and again in 2024. He's a brilliant guy. And I think that he, working with Scott Besson, are going to come up with some very innovative programs. What we need are Trump homes, hundreds of thousands of affordable Trump homes. And we need a mortgage program that makes them affordable. The problem today, it's too expensive to build a home. You can't get a mortgage for it anyway. And if you try to rent someplace to live, the rents are stratospheric. So we have a serious affordable housing problem in the country. I give Robert Kennedy a lot of credit for being the first one to talk about this on a national scale. But I think that is going to be one of the keys to winning the midterm elections. First of all, we've got to get our oil and gas industry cooking at full capacity, because that's the cornerstone of a boom economy.
Yes.
We need to renew the Trump tax cuts. That's obvious, because a rising tide lifts all boats. I hated during the campaign when they kept saying, and Trump wants to cut taxes on billionaires. No, Trump wanted to cut taxes on everybody across the board.
Exactly.
In fact, the people in the middle brackets got a greater tax reduction than billionaires got. But you know how it is; they lie. This is the first clip you showed here on the show was from CNN. I don't get my news from CNN for the same reason I don't eat out of the toilet.
Dear God. Tough but fair. So let's talk about winning your Rumble show, Fabulous, and on WABC. You've been doing a lot of big deep dives into all these top stories. I know you recently interviewed James O'Keefe on his DOJ charges being dropped. What did you learn?
This is an incredible case. This is the first time in the history of the United States that the FBI raided the home of a journalist to try to find material, in this case, Ashley Biden's diary, that O'Keefe had gotten from a source. Or actually, I think it was somebody who worked for O'Keefe had gotten from a source. Now, O'Keefe never published the diary. He never did any video on the diary. He wasn't even sure at that point that the diary was real. He told me he figured out the diary was real when the FBI raided his home to recover the diary.
Exactly.
This is really outrageous. And he was charged with transporting stolen material over a state line. Really? So what he's guilty of is engaging in the act of journalism. What they do at the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal. The only difference is O'Keefe does it better. It's an outrageous case. The best part of this, Kimberly, is when they released the probable cause affidavit as to why they had probable cause to raid O'Keefe's home in New York, every single word was redacted. Every single word. It's just black markings over the 3-page document. So there's a lot of real serious questions here. Did the FBI infiltrate what was then Project Veritas? Did they have something on the inside? Or does the probable cause say that this was ordered by the White House? I said to the New York Post at the time, I was so outraged by this raid. I know a little bit about having your home raided.
Yes, you do.
The FBI is acting like Joe Biden's personal Gestapo in violation of the law.
It's unbelievable. And I'll never forget that raid on, your house in the early morning and CNN being tipped off about it and your poor wife was sick. It's just the whole thing is so reprehensible. And that's why it's the dawning of a new day for justice in this country, thanks to President Trump. And similarly, what happened to James O'Keefe is outrageous. It's unbelievable, the things that they try to get away with. But now there's accountability, thanks be to God. All right. Give us all the promotion for everything you've got going on, because you really are breaking some big news. You've got a fabulous show. People want to check it out. Go ahead.
Well, first of all, the Stone Zone is on Rumble. I love Rumble. Go to rumble.com/Roger Stone. Our show is every day at 8 o'clock Eastern. But check it out on Rumble. Rumble's a great platform.
It really is. We got a great leader in Chris Pavlovsky.
StoneZone.com. My website, where I publish things that I've written, as well as news stories that I see that aren't getting as much coverage as I think they should.
Sure.
Also, you can go to the store there and get all of my books: The Man Who Killed Kennedy, The Case Against LBJ, The Real Story of the Kennedy Assassination, or The Clintons' War on Women, The Bush Crime Family, The Making of the President 2016, How Donald Trump Started a Revolution. It's all there. Plus, you can get your very own Roger Stone Did Nothing Wrong t-shirt. You get one of my signed Roger Stones, which is a paperweight. It's all there. And then on weekends, every Sunday from 3 to 6 Eastern, you can go to WABCradio.com. WABC Radio is the most powerful, most influential, and most entertaining radio station in the country. It's the most powerful AM signal. And we're doing really well Sunday afternoons, traditionally not the highest traffic area for radio listeners, but we're doing very, very well there. We've kind of beat that. I'm just glad I wasn't on at the same time as the Super Bowl.
Exactly. There you go. There you go. Roger, what a pleasure, my friend, to be with you. Everyone check out his fabulous show, 8 p.m. Eastern, right here on Rumble. And the White House now has their official Rumble channel as well. So that's pretty exciting. All good things. Thank you so much for being with me.
Kimberly, I want to congratulate you again for being appointed ambassador to Greece. I can't think of anyone more qualified to go to that country, which, because of the relationship between Greece and Turkey, both American allies, it's a hot spot. It's a very delicate job. Nobody will do a better job than you. And yes, I'm going to come visit you.
Good. I cannot wait. Okay. We'll do the Stone Zone from there. Be a lot of fun. Thank you, my friend. I really appreciate it. God bless you. And my closing remarks, they are just ahead. But don't forget about protecting your savings with the Birch Gold Group. With President Trump back in office, you're going to have more money in your paycheck and more opportunities to prepare for the future. Birch will take you through the process step by step. They will answer any questions. They're going to make you feel comfortable. They're going to help you convert an existing IRA or 401k into an IRA in gold. And what happens is you don't have to pay not even one single penny, because also Trump is getting rid of them, out of your pocket. Text KG to 989898 today. That's KG to the number 989898. And in closing, despite the hysteria from Democrats on Capitol Hill, President Trump is making it clear he's making government more efficient and accountable to who? We, the American people. Because for too long, Washington bureaucrats turned public service into self-service. And it's time to right those wrongs. Because the government works for us, not the other way around. Always remember that. And I want to thank you so much for joining us today. And please be sure to download the Rumble app. Subscribe to my channel, turn on those notifications, like and share, and tell all your friends so they know exactly where to find us. And please also be sure to follow me across all platforms: X, Truth Social, Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. Stay tuned to Rumble for all the latest breaking news coverage. And don't miss Don Jr.'s big show. It's at 6 p.m. Eastern tonight with author Lee Smith. Always a fascinating interview. I hope you have a great rest of the day. I'm going to talk to you all again very soon. God bless, and a special happy birthday to Erica